Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
Coming up on the Payoff, Dana Wentzel Piscopo is absolutely a force of nature. Not only is she in recovery herself, but she creates recovery environments, whether it be mental health or substance abuse, for people in the corporate world. A lot of folks back to work now after COVID. They know what it is like to try to get back into the workspace after being away from so long. Some people, hey, you can remain anonymous, right? Have developed certain types of habits, drinking, drug use, whatever it is, to medicate during the pandemic. Now you're back into the work culture, the workforce. How do you navigate that? How do you navigate sobriety? How do you get sober? Well, if you're thinking about that stuff, Dana is the podcast for you. Can't wait to share this conversation with you. She's really cool, too. She's from King of Prussia, outside of Philly. This guy right here, he's from Brim 54321. This guy right here, yeah, he knows a little something about being outside Philadelphia. Kevin Souza.
Okay.
I've like done all my research on you. It's not hard to find out a lot about you. And that's a good thing, right? It's on the right side of everything. And all the work you're doing now as an advocate, and also what you're doing, in the business world for professionals. It's just, for me, it's so important. And I love the podcast, the Four Sober Girls podcast. Yeah, of course, I'm going to be a fan of content like that, because I've always thought that's kind of how I got into starting. This is because it's great for people to have a place to go, whether they're curious, and like you talk about, whether you're related to someone who's got a situation like this. But I guess the first thing I want to ask you, because I'm always curious, I sometimes will ask myself this and be reminded, what moved you to share your story and to become open with your journey?
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It was almost like a switch flipped in my head, the same switch that flipped when I went sober. And I felt that in the corporate world, there was no way I was the only one suffering with this or struggling with it or going through this adventure that I call it. I don't use journey, I use adventure. And I was like, I need to do something. There's got to be support out here for other people. I need to be that resource, that support that I didn't have or didn't know about. And that precipitated a conversation with my general manager of my global business unit at work. And he was like, I don't know where this should land or where this should go, but it needs to be somewhere here, and I will support you.
And so people should know, and I can say you work at Oracle, right?
I do, yep.
And
yep.
Obviously you talk global, you talk
Yes.
a place like Oracle, which it's moving to me that, someone in the front office would right away say, okay, I mean, times have changed, right, Dana? Like, okay, let's find a way to put you to use here.
Yep. Yeah. So, my first big 30,000 foot dream was to bring a life coaching organization to Oracle. And that they weren't ready for that. They're still not ready for that, right? That's a dream out in the future that I would love to be able to bring here or to other organizations as well. But it morphed into this weekly session where people would show up and we would have a monthly theme and we would do weekly sessions on it. People would engage. We would do activities right there on the spot. And it was a safe space for people. I called it Reclaim Your Moxie, ended up making that a registered trademark so I could take it elsewhere too.
Yeah.
And the Reclaim Your Moxie is more of a well-being, mental health place where people can share and learn about self-awareness and confidence and those types of things. And then I also have a program that I started about a year and a half ago called SAFE, which is sobriety awareness for everyone. That
And
has
that's
now
within
turned
Oracle
into,
as well.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that actually has turned into Oracle Alliance for Recovery. So I'm working to get that to be an affinity group, like kind of an ERG. I'm getting there. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of work. But we have people. I do addiction awareness. It is Alcohol Awareness Month
Yeah.
that we're doing this podcast. So I'm happy to share all sorts of statistics and resources with my crew.
So this is a beautiful thing. So you've created a space where people in the corporate environment can seek counsel for, and you know, it sounds like you started under the broad umbrella of mental health and whether it's substance disorder or whatever, and then you've moved in specifically now to another space which you call SAFE. And
Yeah.
what has the response been like? I mean, a place like Oracle, was it initially, did you get people coming out right away? Because we're in a different climate now, and there is that stigma, like I mentioned earlier, attached to sobriety, but we're people like you and I and other folks in sobriety and other folks, you know, that aren't even sober but are involved in the recovery community are working to chip away at that stigma. Have you witnessed that firsthand?
Yes, because the Oracle Alliance for Recovery was supposed to be a special interest group under one of our other ERGs, and then we got pulled out. So now I'm back to what I was doing, like on my own, a grassroots kind of thing where
What
I'm
is an
just doing it
ERG,
on
just
my
for
own.
people who don't know, like me?
I'm sorry.
What is an ERG?
Oh, an ERG is an employee resource group.
Okay, cool.
So that's kind of a group that has the support of bigger, or the bigger corporation behind you. It gets funding, those types of things. I don't have that yet. I don't have the funding, but I'm working on just getting the word out and getting people involved. I have proposed different things that people are trying to push through. So I'm hopeful and optimistic that we will be doing bigger and better things. But, it's funny because I started the Reclaim Your Moxie. I did an addiction awareness month. And that's when people started coming to me and saying, hey, I'm sober too. Hey, I'm in recovery too. Thanks for telling your story. Thanks for being here. Thanks for holding this space. And it just has grown into over 300 people, just grassroots, getting the word out that people want the knowledge. They want to learn. They want resources. And it's been an amazing, amazing adventure this far.
All right, let's peel back and go back to your adventure, because a lot of times I think someone like you who's sitting in front of us, very polished, almost shiny, it's hard to imagine where we've come from. We're talking about a complete 180. Somebody who's creating, an environment for people to get well. And if you were all like me, there was a point in time where you were really needed to get well. Where did you grow up? Did you grow up outside of Philadelphia?
I did. Okay. I did. I've been here all my life. I've tried to leave a couple of times and it worked.
Yeah, it's a great place to be. And it's and for me, I grew up right outside Philly. It's a great place to grow up. When was your first experience with alcohol or a mind-altering substance that you said, oh, wait a minute, I like how this makes me feel?
Yeah, oddly, I didn't start drinking until I was 40. So
wow.
I dabbled here and there, but I never liked it. I didn't like the way it made me feel. It always made me sick. And then in 2010 is when I had two relationships kind of blow up in my face all at once. One was professional, one was personal. And I'm like, I gotta get out of this reality for a little bit, and found the really sugary, icky things to drink to give me a little bit of a numbing and feel good stuff, and it just went downhill from there.
So you started to drink at 40, and so it was almost to seek a relief.
Yes.
Because, okay, so the personal and professional, the implosion, so to say, was not caused by alcohol, but it was caused by life. And it's like,
Yes.
okay, I need relief from this. Makes perfect sense. As you coped with this and you're using the wine or whatever it was to kind of, escape from all this, what's happening to you as this becomes more consistent? Did you notice for a while? Because for me, it was the biggest, alcohol and drugs, just the biggest lie that I ever told myself, or that, I was made to believe that this stuff made me better. This stuff made me more confident, made me better looking. It made me taller, stronger, whatever, I needed to feel. When did you notice that early on? Was that the vibe? Did you enjoy it for a little while?
Oh, I enjoyed it a lot. It didn't take me long to start enjoying it. I had just left a marriage. That wasn't one of the relationships that imploded, believe it or not, but the dating scene was rough for me, and I hadn't healed from my marriage crumbling. I hadn't healed from a lot of other things. So it was like masking one thing after another. And I thought the alcohol was making me this cool person. I could finally go out and dance and not care. And, the dating scene was so rough, and I was attracting people that were like me. And I say that in regards to, I wasn't healthy. So I was attracting not healthy people emotionally. And I didn't realize that at the time. I just thought, man, I have really crappy luck here with men.
Yeah.
And that made me drink more. And then I met my now husband, and he has 3 bonus kids. And, I kept drinking, and they saw it, but I hid it well. Cause I was just the happy, fun, go lucky drunk person. I wasn't mean, angry, or, weird. So we got together in 2013, we got married 2016. By 2018, 2019, it started to get pretty bad. I was drinking on a daily basis. I was drinking, if you're from this area, Victory Brewing.
Oh, sure.
And the Golden Monkey was my favorite beer. The Belgian triples. I didn't go big or go home.
I understand very well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, by 2020, when that pandemic hit, man, that was, I feel for a lot of us, that was a license to just go nuts,
to check
with
out
any kind of substance, because I don't think any of us were equipped on how to handle that type of situation or how long it was going to last. And while I was already drinking pretty much out of control, I was driving under the influence. I was having blackouts. My blackouts got to be 2-3 days a week. I would get home and not know how I got there. Scary stuff, not remembering conversations I had with the kids or my husband. And it got ugly. It got really, really ugly. And over that stretch of period from 2018 to 2020, I tried to stop several times. It was one of those white knuckling things. You're just white knuckling through the sober bit and thinking, okay, well, I can moderate now that I've quit for 2 months. I can do this, and no, it just gets worse.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. And did you find yourself when you actually, let me go backwards a little bit before we get into the recovery portion of it, because there's a couple things I can relate to. When did you get married to your first husband?
My first husband, we got married in I'm going to show my age here,
Yeah.
1994.
But so you were you were a little younger. I mean, that's a lot of times you see somebody who, or not a lot of times, I can just speak from what I've learned from just talking to you. You get married and you find yourself in an environment that's comforting, and maybe you atrophy, right? Like your developmental skills or your ability to cope with certain things because you're in this certain environment. And then the covers are ripped off, and however you came to be there, you're divorced, and now you're out in the dating world, and now it's like you're almost like I could relate as being like a teenager going to a dance. Like I needed alcohol, and honestly, I needed alcohol for 20 years to connect with other people, especially members of the opposite sex. I mean, dating without alcohol was just, it didn't exist to me. And it was really one of my conduits to all relationships, which led to most all of them being bad, was alcohol or drugs. And I never imagined life without it, because this was like providing me with an assist. When you were to those points now, you're talking about the end of the pandemic where you're like, I'm blacking out and it's like you said, it's getting ugly. Was there a fear around stopping? Like, gosh, if I stop, I won't have this thing that's helped me?
I don't know. I don't remember. I think there was a fear of stopping was, I think, the fear of the pain that I was going to have to experience on the flip side of that. And the feelings, all of the feels that you
all
have
the
to
feels,
go through,
man, they come for you.
Once you get sober.
Yeah.
As you go back, I'm going to go back to my ex-husband, wonderful, wonderful man. He struggled with alcohol, and that's why I didn't drink, is because I was the designated driver. So I saw it from the other side, and I saw this, like, why can't you just stop? Like, what is your problem?
Oh, wow.
And now I know all too well. But I just wanted to get that.
That's quite an addition to the conversation, because it shows what a lot of times we still hear, which is a part of that stigma, right? That I'll reach back and grab that again. Like, why can't you just stop? You who ultimately couldn't stop, were asking that question to your husband, why can't you just stop? And honestly, as an alcoholic, I get that. I get that, like, I get the progression of the disease, and I also get, not being able to understand why somebody can't just stop.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy, right? I mean, you don't realize it until you're on the other side. And I think that automatically helps with empathy and compassion and understanding, and taking a step back to realize you don't know what's going on the other side. You don't know how people can or cannot handle things.
So how did Dana stop?
No, Dana stopped with a chicken cheesesteak.
Oh, really? Tell me what happened.
So about 2 weeks before I stopped, I ate a chicken cheesesteak, and I am a master vegan lifestyle coach and educator as well. So I am vegan. And that pretty much just did me in. I was like, all right, if my morals were just out the window at that point, I was like, if I could do this, what else am I going to do under the influence? And it wasn't the blackouts. It wasn't driving drunk or any of those things that stopped me. It was thank God for the chicken cheesesteak, right? I mean,
yes, sometimes it's not the bears, it's the mosquitoes,
What?
I said, sometimes it's, my sponsor says it's not always the bears, it's the mosquitoes sometimes. And that's,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the chicken cheesesteak, you have that, and you're saying, hey, where am I going with this? This is something that's been being a vegan has been so important to me, and I've thrown that out the window. And so the 2 weeks between the chicken cheesesteak and finally stopping, how did you, because a big part of stopping is developing a toolbox for those coping skills that you had either never developed or put aside when you started to drink. I mean, I don't know, you do, but how do you reach back and find those coping skills when you stop?
Yeah. Well, I was white knuckling it through those first couple of weeks. The 2 weeks between the chicken cheesesteak and when I stopped was, I'm like that type of person that needs to pick a date and like prepare myself.
That's what my brother Kevin did. He's sober, and he and his wife circled a date on the calendar, and the guy stopped that day. It was late October in, I think, 2010. Yeah, or 2009. Yeah.
And that's what I needed to do. I needed to just, the switch was flipped already in the head, but I was like, all right, I'll just get in all your drinking right now in these last 2 weeks, and then just be done with it. And I remember it was the weekend before Labor Day. So, 5 days into my sobriety, and I'm sitting out on the deck, having a dinner with my husband. And I'm like, can I just have one? And he's like, no, you know what will happen? He's like, you'll have one and you won't remember the whole weekend. So, and he was right. He was right. So, I consumed all of the information I possibly could. And by the end of September, I was in a recovery coaching program to become a recovery coach.
So this has been 4 months almost, we're talking about, right? I mean, about that. Wow.
It was a month. Yeah, it was a month.
Oh, yeah, Labor Day. I was thinking Memorial Day. So 1 month. Wow.
1 month.
Okay.
Because that's what I need. I need to immerse myself in the knowledge and the education. And then that's what keeps me going through things. That's what I did when I became vegan. I jumped into health coaching. I jumped into wellness because I knew the knowledge would get me there.
How much of a struggle with that? I got to ask about this. Being somebody who's a wellness coach and who knows all this stuff about health, and here you are drinking yourself into oblivion every night.
Yeah, and that's why my health coaching didn't take off. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, there was that black cloud that was hanging over me that I didn't realize, right? Because everybody drank. That's what I'm an ultra distance runner. That's what we do. You run 50 miles and you go have 3 or 4 beers because you're carb loading.
Yeah.
So it's so prevalent in our lives, especially in America, that drinking is good for you. Drinking is healthy to an extent, that you don't think about, the actual poison that you're putting in your body. So
you start to, obviously you start in this program. So now you're in it. What did you learn about sobriety and about yourself when you entered into this coaching program and you really started to embrace the adventure, right? You started to embrace the wellness, the real wellness side of it. No more white knuckling.
Yeah. I realized that sobriety and recovery are two separate things and they're very different. You can have sobriety and recovery. But I think there's a lot of people out there that are white knuckling their way through sobriety and not taking it on as a lifestyle. And that's what it is. You have to change your life to really embrace it, to understand that, some of us just can't drink anymore. And that's what I found. I found that through my coaching certification program, the knowledge that what it does to your brain, how it changes your brain chemistry, how it makes you think differently. Like you're not in control of those things anymore. And it was very interesting to me and very terrifying that I did not need or want to go back to those types of things. Gave me a lot of tools. And we had to work through these activities that we would be giving our clients. So we were actually working on ourselves as we were working through this program. And I think that's what really helped me. I coached myself. Kind of.
Did you know? So any 12-step work or no? Okay.
No.
Yeah, no. And that's kind of what this podcast is about. It's not about one certain way or particular way to stop. It's about all the different ways that people can actually stop and live a free life like you are living. What are some of the things that you learned? Some of the tools. If somebody, let's say, gets sober, stops drinking, and is faced with an event, maybe a month in, what kind of tools, what kind of exercises did you wrap your mind around that you could employ yourself?
Yeah. Breathing is always a big one. Breathing, I finally learned how to meditate. Even if it's just 10 minutes a day to start, it calms the whole nervous system. It calms your brain so you can just be, let your mind go where it needs to be, but just be for 10 minutes and take in that deep breathing. That was a big one. And the one that I am always talking about is my movie reel. I play the movie reel in my head. What happens when I take that first drink? That goes on to the second, third, and fourth drinks. And then what happens at the end of that movie reel? You're passed out on the couch. You're driving home blacked out, you're this, that, or the other thing. And I don't ever want to be there. So for me, that was a very, very important tool in the beginning, was playing that movie reel in my head to the end of what I didn't want to be, at that point.
How have you grown in recovery? Because I'm imagining, I had a really rough bottom, right? Like it doesn't seem like you, I mean, emotionally, right? But it seems like you still had your husband, you're still, employed and stuff like
I got
that.
lucky.
Yeah. So how, well, I mean, but you're not, it's different for everybody, and it doesn't mean, a lot of times people can compare themselves out. Well, I still have this or that. I did that too. So I didn't have anything, Luckily I was still walking around where I was able to turn it over at some point. But how have you grown, in recovery, in sobriety?
I have grown into, somebody that I don't even recognize anymore. I have grown in love for myself, self-awareness for myself. Professionally, I was promoted 2 times in 10 months. I have been asked to do many different workshops in different lines of business for Oracle, with US benefits, with NetSuite. I did a 30-minute affirmation workshop where over 400 people showed up. Like, how does that even happen? I'm on the board for the United Suicide Survivors International. I'm the chair for a research project on the Construction Industry Institute for Mental Health in the Construction Industry.
Wow, that's a tough nut to crack, I'm sure.
Yeah.
A lot of tough guys and a lot of people who, probably,
Yes.
it's just like athletes per se, like that I kind of work. It's tough for people to show that vulnerability.
Yeah, for sure. And so I work in the construction and engineering global business unit at Oracle. So I'm surrounded with the construction industry. That's,
how do you get through to the construction worker that his whole life has worked his ass off and every day is at a couple beers and he's got a good life for his family and but he needs to stop?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, right? That's where the peer support comes in. And that's what I'm trying to promote, is the peer support. Just it starts with one person, and I've seen it throughout the construction industry. There's an organization out there, the Associated Builders and Contractors Organization, and the one gentleman that I work with there closely, they have a total workers' health, and they train the safety managers in the different construction companies, their members. They incorporate the mental health now into the safety programs. It's not just don't fall off the crane, or get yourself injured. It is a total workers' health kind of thing. It's heart health, it's body health, it's physical health, it's emotional health. And the younger generation, I think they are a lot more open to it than the older generation. And those are the ones that, you leave that stuff in the truck before you get to the job site. And those are the ones that are a little bit harder to reach. But
I would imagine the reason I asked, I would imagine that's just a tough job. I mean, A couple other things. I know you got places to go, people to see, but I want to just wrap up with a couple more things that you've mentioned. You talk about numbers. What are some of the statistics that would shock people, even people that are alcoholic, people that are sober, that are listening to this? And because I don't do too much. I have my own research that I've done, right? That I know it doesn't work for me. And I'm a 12-step guy and other things too, but so I don't talk about statistics too much, but I think that they are, I'm a sports guy and statistics back up a lot of the, a lot of information and points that are made, and their numbers don't lie really. So that's a long way of saying, what are some statistics that jump out at people about recovery and about addiction?
Putting me on the spot with numbers here.
Yeah, I mean, anything you can ballpark, Dane.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I think some of the numbers that really shocked me were that 70% of Americans have some sort of substance, that use some sort of substance in the working space.
Really?
I thought that, that blew my mind. and that I think the number was $696 billion a year is lost in the corporate and workspace due to substance use from their employees. So whether that's absenteeism, presenteeism, going to rehab, calling in sick, family members that they have to take care of that have addiction issues and things like that. It is a huge problem. And the numbers are huge, they keep rising. And now that we're coming out of the pandemic, we're seeing even higher numbers because now people need to go back to work and they're not sure how to navigate all
because
of that.
Sometimes,
that brings on
there's been like self-medication at home because a lot of times, like you mentioned, it did a number on all of us. I was sober, but I mean, it did a number. I can remember when I was, I didn't get sober till 10 years after this, but I remember 9/11 and I lived in the New York area. And I remember that was like a great excuse. Really, it was. I mean, nobody knew what to do. There was nothing to cope. People were scared. And I was just like, let's go. And every night, I was never the same after that. Now it's in my family. I was going to be a drunk, whether I was going to get sober or not, but I do coming back to civilian life or whatever you want to call it after the pandemic has got to be tough for people to navigate going back into the workspace. Are you helping them do that at Oracle?
That's what the Reclaim Your Moxie is all about. That's what people come. They come to learn boundaries and we work on feelings and emotions. This month, we're working on humor as a stress reliever. I'm still trying to figure out how to do that one without offending a lot of people. But
good luck.
We do strengths and values. We do goal setting. June is our new fiscal year, so we always do a new year. And we just do a lot of those types of things and challenges. And with the OR program, that's all focused on, substance use and resources and those types of things. So, yeah, we do a lot.
I want to wrap up with this one more thing. What do you tell somebody that is going back into their corporate environment or somebody that is just getting sober that has to live and stay in that corporate environment? How do you tell them it's okay to not drink? It's okay. And here's how you can.
Yeah, it's I always say this, it's okay to be not okay. And I think that's one of our biggest statements in the recovery arena, right? Is you take it day by day. And if, today you can only do 40%, you're still doing the best that you're doing. And it's better than you would have done if you didn't do anything at all, or you picked up, right? So you've got to just keep moving step by step by step and day by day by day, and just take it a day at a time. That one day at a time, that's out there for a reason, right? And use your tools, gain your tools, right? Like look for things that you can do to add to your toolbox. Add that movie reel, add, the breathing, add affirmations, add people that are your support, right? If you are having a tough day because you're back in the office, who can you reach out to talk about it? Who can you just vent to and go, oh my God, this sucks, or, I just need somebody to listen to me for 2 minutes. And if you're
make that phone call, talk to that person. It can change the entire course of your day.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And a bunch of phone calls make a bunch of days. And the next thing you know, you're waking up and you've been sober for some time and your life is together.
Yeah, for sure. And if there's programs that work, use them. Use your EAP, use your benefits to your best advantage. I know there's a lot of us that are reluctant to do that, but it's worth it. They're there for you for a reason, and reach out to somebody in your work environment that you can trust.
Yeah. Anything else, Dana? This has been an adventure.
It has been. It has been. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I just, I'm not going to say that if I can do it, you can do it, because that's it's all relative to each one of us. And, I think if you are thinking about getting sober or wanting to be sober, find some sober groups, find some sober curious information. There's a ton of it out there, and you have to be ready. So, really be open to being ready, and being open and wrapping your arms around yourself. Give yourself the gift of sobriety.
I love it. And I love be open to being ready.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. I love it. Dana, thank you so much. I'll put, the link to your podcast and the link to your LinkedIn. All right, I'll put it in the show notes.
Awesome.
And I'll send you this. This will probably do go up later tomorrow, probably.
Oh, great. Thank you.
And if you want,
Awesome.
send me like your favorite headshot. And I'll use that one.
Will do.
Yeah. But thank you so much for your time. This is long overdue. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you too, so very much.
All right. You have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Dana.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening to The Payoff with Pete. Once again, I'm Pete Souza. And of course, we are part of the Rogue Media Network. All kinds of good podcasts you can find at roguemedianetwork.com. And of course, you can find this podcast and all those other ones wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, other spots like that.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.